Welcome to the Peace Palace. My name is Naveed Akhtar and I will be your host today. On behalf of the Peace Palace, the Carnegie Foundation, the Elijah Interfaith Foundation and the speakers here today, it's my honour to welcome all of you to this press conference. And I extend a very warm welcome to the ambassadors of the Vatican, India and Egypt, and of course the members of the press. Let me begin with some practical points. The press conference will take around 20 minutes. It will consist of the 3 short speeches, and we will also show a few brief videos. All materials will be available after the press conference in a folder provided. I also request that you hold any questions until the end of the press conference. Please allow me to introduce you the first speaker, the Director of the Peace Palace, Eric de Baets.
A warm welcome to the Peace Palace indeed. There's only one Peace Palace in the world, and the Carnegie Foundation was entrusted to manage it and provide peace through law by supporting the courts that rule in the Peace Palace. As Carnegie Foundation, we are part of the Carnegie family of institutions that promote the legacy of Andrew Carnegie to bring peace around the world. And we've just hosted the Carnegie Peace Building Conversations on various topics that are related to conflicts. And for instance, that's about material resources, scarcity and conflicts about material resources. That's just one. Various conversations have taken place on different topics. And it's important that also the issue of religion is addressed, because it's perceived as something that is, can be divisive, but the sources of religion are, I'm sorry. We feel it's important here at the Peace Palace to bring the religions together, the highest spiritual leaders, to bring them together to promote a peaceful message of friendship across religions. We are very fortunate that we find ourselves indeed in the presence of the Nuncio of the Vatican, but also of the partners here, Dr. Rabbi Alon Goshen-Goldstein from the Elijah Interfaith Institute. We feel that we have the partnerships with this interfaith board to invite the highest spiritual leaders and give a message of peace around the world. This fits very well with the mission of the Peace Palace, and we are now announcing this initiative that should take place in June 2020, because we have received partners and support to elaborate on this initiative. And it will be a huge undertaking, but together with the partners, we can make this happen.
We're now going to hear from the Director of the Elijah Interfaith Institute, Dr. Alon Goshen-Goldstein.
Thank you, friends, for coming. I feel this is a friendly audience, so I can be not only doctor, but also rabbi, so I can also give you a little sermon. I'm coming from Jerusalem. I just flew in last night. We're celebrating the festival of Sukkot. Sukkot in the Bible is a time where the prophet Zechariah prophesies that all nations come together. They come to Jerusalem, but Jerusalem is a symbol. It's a symbol of a certain spiritual vision that all share. So it's a time of universal understanding. And as I had to sort of make sense of my coming on this feast, I said, when one of friends suggested, what a wonderful time to come. You're coming from a place of spiritual vision, and you're working to announce a global, universal, coming together, a message of all religions. And sometimes you need the right eyes to see. And the right eyes to see are the eyes that see providence in the working. And when you see providence in the working, you learn to say thank you. And that's what's happening during this festival of Sukkot. We're given a sense of gratitude. And sitting here, I am filled with gratitude. I'm filled with gratitude for the fact that about 3 years ago, I got out of the blue an email from Mark, who's to my right, who said, I've been trying for a long time to realize a vision of bringing the world's religious leaders together in a message, and no one wants to talk to me. Can you help? I said, I'll help you, you help me. And I've helped him, and he's helped me, but that's because God has helped both of us. And that launched just over a year ago, almost a year and a half ago actually by now, this amazing campaign that had a reach of over 100 million people globally, of the world's religious leaders making a message to believers and to non-believers, which we were then able to distill in dialogue with them into a message of friendship. And that was hard. Your boss, well, your immediate bosses said no, but then the top boss said yes. So we managed to get the Pope, despite the fact that the Vatican said no. And we had so many difficulties along the way. And at the end, this miraculous thing happened. We were able to launch it. And it caught like fire, and the world listened. And one of the people who listened was my second partner here, Eric de Batz, who, having seen the impact of this message, said, wow, we're the Peace Palace. We need to find a way of bringing this message of friendship on board. And together with Mark, they turned to me and said, Alon, there must be a way where we can take all this work that you've done with the world religious leaders and amplify it further. And amazing, we're here, we're sharing this moment. I'm so grateful to you, and I'm so grateful to you, and I'm so grateful to all of you for sharing this moment, sharing this enthusiasm, making something happen. So the eyes of faith, which is what Sukkot teaches us, are you look at every little step along the way, and then you develop the appreciation how every little step takes you to the fuller vision. So a word or two about the steps, and a word or two about the vision. I just learned the secret yesterday at Ben Gurion Airport. I went through security, and I'll be 62 in a few weeks, and the security agent looks at me and says, you don't look a day over 53. I said, thank you. I just sat in the session there, and I learned that the key to youth is always working on a shoestring. So I guess somehow working for 20 years and more than that in the field of bringing world religious leaders and communities together on a shoestring is keeping me successful, or young. And that youth and that youthful attitude has itself been a source of great blessing, because in the space of 20 years, we have created the highest ranking group of world religious leaders who are functioning, who are meeting, who come together biannually, who issue statements, who think together what the world needs. With the resources of scholarship and leadership, we've created a kind of unique approach, and it's that unique approach that stood well for Mark's invitation to convene these religious leaders, but also to find a new approach. Because how many times have we heard that all religions believe in peace? And it's probably true, I imagine they really do. But yet, we don't hear the message anymore. It's old, we've lost something about it. We need to find a new way of hearing it. Because we had done a project on friendship across religions, we had developed this category. We developed the theory of how to take ideas that are inside each of the religions to communicate them beyond the religions. So internal teaching becomes external teaching. Messages of friendship are not only within, messages of friendship also extend beyond. And through this theological, historical, critical work, our religious leaders were equipped to serve as the foundation for this project. So we had this group of about 60 world-class religious leaders already on board. We were able then to add a few who had not been previously in our network. We had finally the Pope join the initiative, and as a consequence of all that, suddenly there was this huge message that took its own particularity, novelty, a call to friendship. And I think what struck the world, and no offense to you, Mark, is not only your good PR work, it's also the crispness of a new message. And I think, Eric, you've appreciated correctly that message is not over. More people can, and God willing, more people will hear a message of friendship. Now, let me explain to you what it is that I think appeals when we speak of friendship that's different just from peace. First of all, friendship touches something very deep in all of us. Who would we be without friends? All of us, we need friends. It's fundamental to our existence, right? You know how good it is your life became since we became friends, right? So we need friendship as something fundamental to our being. And when you think about the fact we can be friends with the other, what does it do? Well, it goes to the heart of the obstacles. And the obstacles are fear, hatred, and those things that sometimes make it unsafe to walk down the street. Yesterday I was sitting on the train. Forgive me, no stereotyping. A Muslim man looking across the way next to me. My wife said, cover your kippah, don't be visible, you're going through Belgium. I said, I am who I am. What's the first thing I did when I saw that man? I gave him a big smile. What do you think I got back? A big smile. It's sometimes as simple as that. You begin with a smile, you begin with a connection, you begin with a forging of a relationship. But people are afraid to make friends. I make a living out of it, or don't make a living out of it. So when you approach the other with an attitude of friendship, you're changing the tenor of being, you're changing the quality of life. So what we're seeking to do is to create a new body of teaching that comes from within the religions that jointly, and I think this is a great advance for religion as such, because we've been doing this for over 15 years with the Elijah Board of World Religious Leaders. But it's not so common. Usually Christians teach Christians, and Muslims teach Muslims, and Jews teach Jews. Maybe the Dalai Lama teaches everyone. Okay, but to have all the different religions together, teach everyone together, and to jointly give a message. We as religious leaders are giving you a new teaching, a simple teaching, but sometimes profundity lies in simplicity. The simplicity, make friends. What does it mean, make friends? Let me break down some of what that means. Friends means get to know one another. You can't have friends if there's ignorance. Friends mean care for one another, support each other. Friends mean pray for each other. Okay, so carry each other, not just when you're at some interfaith gathering, but when you're in your own situation, pray for the other. Friends means be open to being inspired by one another. Friends mean work towards common visions. Friends mean consider not only your communities, but the earth, our common home. Consider that also part of your friendship. And more. I know eventually there will be a time limit. So you take these and other components, and you bring them together, then friendship becomes a way of living. So our plan is as follows. With the help of ambassadors, our networks, university partners like the VU that's here represented, we will be convening consultations of scholars, thinkers across the world. We have already started a process of consultation. In November, the next meeting of the Elijah Board of World Religious Leaders in Spain will be discussing this. We've designated up to 16 cities globally as consultative cities who will be working for this and talking with religious leaders worldwide. What is friendship? What do you need? What needs to go into the statement? So the statement is going to grow organically from a consultative process of academics, religious leaders, the top religious leaders, and making certain that no one is left out, and that those voices that could be potentially the hardest to negotiate are fully on board, fully related to, and everyone is comfortable with a joint message to their communities. Now, this...
Maybe I can add to that.
Please.
Because, of course, this will be a huge undertaking. It will require support from the various faiths. And for us as Peace Palace, we want, of course, to bring peace, and we are an impartial venue. So the fact that this is an initiative across religions, where the board of the Interfaith Institute that has Muslims, Buddhists, Hindu, Sikh, Christian and Jewish traditions among them is crucial for us. So to have these communities on board and feel that they are reflected in a declaration of friendship is crucial. So I'm very grateful that here in The Hague, the International City of Peace and Justice, with the ambassadors that we liaise with at the Peace Palace, we found a positive resonance with the ambassador of India, who is, of course, happy to bring us in touch with the faiths in India. I'm very grateful that the ambassador of Egypt also is prepared to liaise with, for instance, the Al-Azhar University in Egypt. We are very grateful that the Vatican has let us know that the Vatican is sympathetic to this initiative and that a high official shall be designated to work with us on a declaration of friendship. So we hope that by a manifest of friendship, by being here together, by a declaration that we will develop interactively with the spiritual leaders and their communities, we can bring a very positive signal to the world. And therefore, I was delighted when we had this idea to be in touch with the filmmaker Mark Wood, indeed, because it was his film that made us realize that this actually was possible. It was not only thinkable, but it was also possible.
And I need to add something to what you said, because Eric has been concerned all along. How are we going to deal with the Muslims and others who have teachings to the contrary? In other words, it's very nice to declare friendship, but someone is giving someone else some very poisonous food in the name of food, right? Someone out there is sending out a religious message that other people are buying, and it's the opposite of what we do. So how do we engage those alternative voices? Technically, this is called theology of religions. In other words, how does a religion view other religions, and how do we lift up voices in those traditions that enhance rather than forbid friendship? So when you say that it's a challenging job, it's a challenging job for all these leaders to come together and issue a teaching on religion when in fact they have to vote for one kind of a religion and not another. They have to uphold voices of plurality and tolerance against other voices in their traditions. And therefore, the importance of the representativity and the importance of working with high-ranking religious leaders is that if we all come together across this religious diversity to give this message of friendship, we're not only saying, get together once a week for a cup of tea. We're saying really, we validate the other. Give value and positive meaning to the other faith. And therefore, it's actually, this project is going to be a big leap in world interfaith relations. And for it to be a leap, we require 3 conditions. The one is the well thought out message that we'll be working through this consultative process. The second is the endorsement of leaders. And by leaders, I mean, first and foremost, a group of highly prominent religious leaders who will be convening in this building in around June 2020, but also outreach to thousands and tens of thousands of world religious leaders through a campaign that Mark will tell you about in a second that is designed to reach out to world religious leaders worldwide. So that when we're reaching to these 16 cities, they're just the foundation, but we actually would like to get hundreds of thousands of religious leaders globally to join a movement of friendship, and that's going to start creating a force in society. That force will help serve as a counterforce to those voices that need to be contained, neutralized, and brought into the dialogue. And the third component, all of you have seen declarations, all of you have seen statements, all of you know what a wonderful place the Occupy and the garbage can 10 minutes after the declaration has been made, right? I see how many people are smiling now. For it to be effective, there has to be follow-up. Follow-up is education and relationship building. There's no point in doing, as good as a statement is, as good as the thinking is, as good as the big names are, if it doesn't get disseminated into the communities, it doesn't have a long life. It doesn't have an afterlife. So the plan is to use this initiative to reach into communities, and in those communities to actually implement a plan of education, friendship building, and deepening the tenor of relationships so that friendship becomes the way of those communities. Now, even if I don't count the time that Eric spoke at my expense, I think I should end. I was told that I had to say something positive at the end, so I usually don't read, but I will read you one sentence so that it gives a positive message, and I'll just take this one sentence. Spreading friendship holds the promise of deepening mutual insight and wisdom and generating love, justice, joy, and peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Finally, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Mark Word from Havas Lems and Let'sHeal.org. He was a recent winner of the Golden United Nations RFBF Peace Medal in Korea and for his work on the Make Friends initiative. And according to AdAge, he's one of the world's 50 most creative people in the world today. So over to Mark.
Thank you, Navid. Today is a very special day for me. It's the day for me to proudly hand over the torch to my friends at the Elijah Interfaith Institute and the Carnegie Foundation. And I'm grateful that this adventure we initiated a few years ago with the help of so many wonderful people could become just a preview of something bigger and more impactful than what I could have foreseen. The declaration of friendship that will hopefully bring more peace to the world. And as the two of you already said, it all started with the joint video appeal by the world's most prominent religious leaders, and I think it's a good moment to see that appeal again. You probably all saw it in the news, but hopefully we can show it now.
We are called as we like to say, to look into one another's eyes in order to see more deeply and in order to recognize the beauty of God in every living human being.
Our advice is to make friends to followers of all religions.
Muy importante porque mi vida religiosa se enriqueció con explicaciones de él. Se enriqueció muchísimo, ¿no? Y supongo que también algunas mías, ¿no? Bueno.
Fue nuestra vocación religiosa la que propició el que nos encontremos en la vida.
No matter from which side of the mountain you are climbing, we should be helping each other so that we can all get to the same place. So there is need for people to make friends.
وألا نبحث عن أوجه الخلافات التي تختص بكل طائفة عن الأخرى.
Personal contact, personal friendship. Then we can exchange deeper level of experience.
Honor other religions like you do your own.
We need to get together and know one another, just to discover and explore those commonalities.
That starts a process where prejudices go away, where new insights are born, and where basically hope is born.
It's not complicated. I would say to everyone, start with sharing what we all share, which is the pleasure of conversation.
One of the wonderful things about spending time with people completely unlike you is you discover how much you have in common. The same fears, the same hopes, the same concerns.
I think I'll keep it very simple. It's probably time to talk less, listen more.
അങ്ങനെ വിശ്വസൗഹാർദ്ദ ഒരു യാഥാർത്ഥ്യമാകട്ടെ.
So that was the joint video appeal. And in 2015, this adventure started when I met a British Muslim man named Miraj Islam in London. And there he said something that really struck me. And basically he said something that put all of this into motion. So without Miraj Islam, we wouldn't be here. Maybe it's good to look what he said at that time.
I feel like they think I'm a terrorist, that I am a bad person, and that is purely based on how I look and how I'm not even dressed, it's just the colour of my skin.
Yeah, and after some research it became clear to me that Miraj is not alone in feeling this way. People all around the world that think or believe that members of other religions think negatively about them, while in reality the vast majority are very open and very positive towards members of religions other than their own. And that's not just my opinion, it's a fact. And that has been proven by a large worldwide locality study conducted by Martijn Lampert from the research company Motivaction. So you could easily say that we found a huge misperception. And not only a misperception, it is a very dangerous misperception because it can create social tension, hostility, and even violence. Because, you know, if you think that the religious other does not like you, does not respect you, or even hate you, friendship and compassion are distant possibilities. You know, if you think that the other hates you, you just might preempt expected behavior and hit first. And personal contact is the key to reduce that misperception, and who better, at that time I thought, than the world's most prominent religious leaders could correct that misunderstanding and promote personal contact via the joint video appeal. And when I got that idea, we became obsessed by the idea of making that happen. And only with the help of the Elijah Interfaith Institute and many other wonderful people, we could make it happen. It took well over 2 years. It was an incredible adventure, and we are very happy that it was seen by millions and millions of people in the news all over the world. And we hope it helped easing social tension. And in 2017, this adventure, this new adventure started. Eric saw me talking about this video appeal by the leaders on Dutch television. He called me, you called me, and asked if I'd like to do it all over again, but this time here at the Peace Palace. So the same message, but then here at the Peace Palace. And you can imagine that I was not an instant big fan of that idea, because it would take so long. But after a while I thought, what if we could arrange to formalize an official rejection of interfaith hostility? So what if we could formalize an official rejection of interfaith hostility by the world's leading religious leaders? A declaration that their faith absolutely rejects interfaith divisions or religious intolerance. And so the idea of the Declaration of Friendship was born, and I was very happy that you accepted the idea. I also realized at that time that crafting such a declaration requires a set of skills that I, or my company, or my NGO do not possess, because it will be a huge undertaking. And so I'm very happy that Alon and Eric, with their enormously capable organizations, will take it from here. It is my dream that we can all be one family, and my hope is that our family name will be Compassion, and I strongly believe that passing the torch today towards you, to Alon and Eric, will make that dream come true. Thank you.
You may know that at the beginning here in the Netherlands of the fiscal year, the Dutch government comes together in an interfaith meeting. That took place just a week ago. The various faiths in the Netherlands inspire the Dutch cabinet before they go to Parliament with the budget and the annual plans. Many ambassadors are present during that event. I had the pleasure and the privilege of being active as a volunteer in interfaith activities, and of course in the mission of the Peace Palace to promote peace around the world. May peace prevail. It would be wonderful if such a signal of friendship across religions could take place at this iconic venue. So I'm very grateful for the support we have. This is an impartial and inspiring venue. So coming here together, we hope that such a summit and a declaration of friendship will have a very positive impact on communities that do not feel friendly towards one another, because as I understand the various teachings, that they are peaceful and they promote having the conversation as we just learned in this inspiring video film.
Can I interrupt you now? Our long-term plans for this venue actually are more extensive than just holding the declaration here. Basically, there are two gods. There's God and there's money, as you know from God and Mammon. So God willing and funding permitting, the plans include not only having the declaration, but actually having other ongoing interreligious educational activities at the Peace Palace, including a summer school, including a summer, we call it HOPE, because it delivers hope, has the acronym of prayer and education in it. But the idea is a festival, an interreligious festival based on community participation, so that your idea of this venue delivering this message to the world is also something of a longer-term vision and not just the one-time vision of the meeting in 2020.
Peace needs to be sustained. Friendship needs to be sustained.
Yeah.
And we have all kinds of activities taking place at the Peace Palace, and the activities at the core needs to of course always be facilitated, peace through law, and we hope that having the summit at this unique place with the support we already received, this huge undertaking can take place, and we hope that June 2020 we will have the coming together with a declaration that is prepared by designated officials of the various spiritual leaders, so there will be support, and with the cooperation with Mark, we know that the impact in terms of communication can be large, and that is of course what we hope to do in this venue that is a unique place for the world, an impartial place where all come together in friendship. If we can convey that message, if the leaders, it's not about us here, it's about the spiritual leaders, can convey that message, that would be a grand signal for the world.
Thank
and
you.
I hope we
Thank
can
you so much.
realize that.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. Do we have time for questions? We are over. We can take a few questions if there are any questions.
Just one question, the summer school will take place next year already or only in 20?
This will have to rely on the efforts of our partners and eventually also on funding. But I think first and foremost, it's about coming together by the spiritual leaders. So I'm very grateful for that support, and that is where we build on now, and we will then see what all we can do in addition.
Any other questions from anybody?
Could I ask a question? Over the last 2 or 3 days, we've had these conversations for peace here at the Palace, and we've had over 60 speakers dealing in 20 sessions of issues of peace. And one of the things that came from this was, and was regularly talked about, was this whole business, in the business of peace, as in world peace, has always been dealt with as a top-down approach. And one of the messages coming through was what we need to have is an upwards approach and coming from the bottom up as opposed from the top down. And I just wondered if you had any views on how you might be looking at that kind of methodology in getting the word out.
I think that's fundamental, and that's why when I said earlier that we are designating a number of cities globally, the whole idea was that rather than just the Peace Palace coming from heaven, so to speak, and proclaiming a message to the world, we want that process to be more organic and coming from different parts. And therefore, there's built into it an element of outreach to community as part of both the design and the implementation, precisely because we so deeply resonate with this two-street or two-way approach that you just referred to. Thank you.
And I think it's essential to have the necessary support. Thank you for raising this question, because indeed you mentioned the peace conference that just took place the last 3 days. That was an enormous undertaking. It required a lot of partnerships, and we're engaging in the process to develop these partnerships and make this all happen. And we're very fortunate that we have some crucial partners here together today, and therefore the idea of holding this summit in 2020 is all the more realistic with the cooperation we just received.
Congratulations to you, Eric, really. None of it would have been possible without you.
We have one last question. Yes.
Just to share, and also this association with the Elijah Interfaith Institute.
Rabbi Sudendorp is a member of the board of the Elijah World. What are we called? Elijah Board of World Religious Leaders.
So to share my gratefulness also that we have come so far, and I've seen how not only the religious leaders, but through them also people of the congregations have been engaged, and I want to also to add sort of to what Igdavad said about the meeting last week at the big church in The Hague, which is already an event of the last 20 years, and where the people who create it are the people at the grassroots, and the grassroots reach out to the parliament, and I think most members of cabinet are there, but also children from schools, 400 children of schools. So it is an example of what can be done and multiplied to make this a cooperation between the people at the grassroots and the leadership.
Can I ask Rabbi Sutendorp to give us the 60-second version? Only because he has different size versions for every story. The 60-second version of your relationship with Imam Ilyasi and its reciprocity, because it touches on Angus's question. It goes to the heart of Angus's question.
Well, it was in Amritsar in India, where we had a meeting with Elijah. And the moment I come in, I don't have time to put the suitcases. A man comes to me and says, "Will you meet my teacher, Imam, the Imam of India?" And we meet each other, and he tells me immediately that he just had been to Jerusalem and he's convinced that the world of Islam, the world of Judaism can make peace. And with a moment, there is the chief rabbi of England who comes and I introduce him and he becomes my brother. He is my brother. From this time onwards, we are in a relationship that extends, it is an expression of what Allah is speaking about. And it happened in an instant, but it is deepened.
But so the 90-second version includes the fact that Rabbi Sutendorp was taken by the president of the All India Organization of Imams to the madrasa to meet Muslim school children in Delhi. It was the first time they had seen a Jew, and the 180-second version includes the graphic descriptions of how they were afraid and how they overcame their fear. Okay, and the flip side was that Imam Ilyasi came and spoke at your synagogue here and met your community. So the point is that these personal relations between leaders translate to communities down to the level of youth, down to the level of children, and they create ultimately this, not just next generation, but also this two-way movement.
10 seconds. The children who looked at me coming in India were closed with a kind, and I felt a kind of hatred, not against me, but something I represented. And when I told them that I was born in the war and saved, that my name is Shalom, peace, and taught them a song about peace, within not even a minute, the eyes opened and there was a singing. Maybe it's not as simple as that, but at the same time, sometimes it is as simple as that.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a very inspirational story, and I think it's an excellent point for us to stop. I think, thank you so much to everybody on the panel. I think they will be here for a little while longer. If you want to speak to them personally, please do that. And there will be press packs available. If you contact people at the back there, you can get more information about the initiative. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you today. Thank you so much for, and to our host, the Peace Palace, for hosting us. Thank you so much.